Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Thursday, the 27th of November. So happy Thanksgiving to all of my American friends. That makes this the news and events for Wednesday, November 26th, day 1372 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you from this major European capital currently under siege. Hey, Seawolf and Nutmegger. Hey, Clinkers Kelly. Hey, Akron. Hey, Shark. Nice to see you. Sorry about last night, guys. I'll tell you. Hey, Anthony. Hey, kid. I'll tell you, it's very simple. Monday night, the Russians threw 500 drones and missiles at Ukraine. Monday night was very loud. I got very little sleep. And that's just the reality of life in Kyiv, right? Like that happens. But I'll tell you, I have a hard time recovering from those days, especially when, like yesterday, Tuesday was a very busy day for me. I was out the door and I didn't get home until about 10 o'clock at night. And by that point, I just could not see pumping coffee in me so that I was going to be up all night, and I had to crash. And so that's why there was no live last night. It was just the reality of no sleep on Monday night and a busy day on Tuesday. That's all it was. Now, Maddie, you shouldn't be, right? Because nobody should ever worry about me. Because I'm here by choice. The people we worry about are the Ukrainians. Also, Maddie, I did post a video saying that I would not be live last night. With the tune of, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. Please forgive me if I don't. All right, Maddie, that's fine. You can worry about me if you want. Hey, T-Bone. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, Jan. Sorry. Jan's the other one. Hi, Jan. Hey, Renee. I'm just fine. Don't worry about me. Good day, Dan. Hey, Jerry-O. There's my buddy Jerry-O. How you doing, buddy? So, real quick, while people are coming in, let's just review last night's attacks on Ukraine. And let's everybody remind ourselves who the aggressor is in this conflict. Because let me tell you something. The Russian propaganda machine is cranking out the bullshit. It's unbelievable. Seawolf, our sponsor for tonight, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did not mention our sponsor for tonight is Van. For anybody that was on the call on Monday, I talked real rude to Van, and then he turned around and stood up, and I'm really appreciative of that. I don't know if he's here yet, but if anybody sees our boy Van come in, he is our sponsor tonight. And then I have no sponsors for the rest of the week. So what's the rest of the week? It's just Thursday and Friday, right? And I was thinking about taking Friday off because I'm not going to take tomorrow off. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. But we have plans for a Friendsgiving kind of thing on Saturday, and the guys want to do a bunch of cooking on Friday. So I am thinking about taking Friday off. I don't know. We'll see. But I right now I have no sponsors beyond tonight. So if anybody can help out with that, that would be great. Now, last night, 72 out of 90 drones knocked out of the sky, 80% interception rate, good interception rate, though 10 drones were recorded to hit their targets. Two missiles, two Iskander-Ms were fired. Now, the Iskander-Ms, they're the ballistic missiles. They're very difficult to shoot down, especially when they have a short distance to travel, because they can travel that distance in almost no time at all. And both of those got through. There were strikes, of course, on energy infrastructure. as there were on Monday, right? That's what they're doing. Is it Seawolf's birthday? Happy birthday, Seawolf. So the big news, I think, today, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe nobody else cares about this, maybe I'm the only one who cares. There's Van. Van's finally sponsored a live, and we are grateful, extremely grateful. You just got to know how to talk to those South Africans. That's what it is. They don't respect weakness, do you, Van? They do not respect weakness. You're the best, pal. Thanks. Okay, now look. Here's what the word on the street is. Oh, great, Seawolf, for your birthday. We will not sing. We've tried that before. It's terrible. So happy birthday, pal. Thanks. That's great to have you on board. We don't know who leaked the tapes. The question maybe should be who would have the tapes. And then maybe you could figure out who leaked them. So what are the tapes? The tapes are a conversation between one of Putin's staff, Yukashov, and Steve Witkoff, where Steve Witkoff is giving Yukashov advice to give to Putin on how to talk to Donald Trump to win His Majesty's favor. It's obscene. It is so clearly, when I think about the U.S. constitutional definition of treason, of giving aid and comfort to the enemy in a time of war, and that's the definition, right, under the U.S. Constitution of what a traitor is. The word treason gets thrown around a lot. But this is treason. If it is not clear to everybody yet that the United States federal system of government has been subverted by malign foreign powers, and that we are in an active coup where the Kremlin is running the White House, you are just not paying attention. You are kidding yourself. This is not normal. There is nothing normal about this administration or how they represent, or rather destroy, U.S. interests in the world. Today, I had to listen to a man for whom I have the utmost respect, Sir General Richard Sharif, former Assistant SACEUR, that is Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. British military general, right? Brilliant guy. And I had to listen to him say the words, Europe needs to wake up to the reality that the United States is not merely an unreliable ally. They are, in fact, a friend of our enemy. He went short. A British general who worked closely with the American SACEUR in Europe stopped one step shy of saying America is our enemy, because he knows it's not true. He knows that the enemy is the Trump administration and this fascist takeover of Washington, D.C. By the way, I do want to send out my most sincere wishes for a speedy recovery for the National Guard troops that were shot in D.C. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what happened there exactly. I don't think any of us really do yet. But to them and their families, while they were on duty, under whatever the circumstances happen to be, for them to be shot in an American city, they both died. They're both dead. There was some conflicting posts about that from the West Virginia governor, or from the West Virginia governor, wasn't it? They were West Virginian. Hey, new me. I have said it before. Now, I will be very surprised to find out that their assassin was on the left. I'll be very surprised if that comes out. This seems far more like a far-right provocation. But as I have said on this thing, there is going to be blood in the streets of the United States before this is done. Because these people are out to destroy the United States of America, as we heard from Sir General Richard Sharif today, which was striking. Striking. So Witkoff talking to Yukashev, saying treasonous things, of course. Now, there's then another conversation between Dmitriev and Yukashev. Dmitriev being the guy who runs the Sovereign Wealth Fund for the Russian Federation and who has been the chief negotiator on this thing for Ukraine, who may even have been in Miami, despite the fact that he's a sanctioned individual, to meet with Witkoff. Now, like I say, who could have these tapes? Only Russian intelligence or American intelligence. Sorry, guys. My live is being restricted. All right. So, who would have these tapes? One can only assume in Russian or American intelligence. So, I don't know who leaked them. I don't know which side decided it was in their interest to leak them. Although, if you look at, you guys know Jason J. Smart, right? Everybody here knows Jason J. Smart. He's a Kremlinologist who works for the Kyiv Post. And he did a great video today on YouTube about the driving, motivating forces of the principal political factions inside Russia. And the fact is that for the oligarchs, for the military, and for the FSB, the interests of Russia are not what's at stake for them. They're not interested in what's in the best interest of Russia. They're interested in what's in the best interest of themselves. What gets them more power? What gets them more money? Clearly, for the military, for the oligarchs, and for the FSB, this war and the war contracts and the kickbacks and corruption that go with it, that line their pockets and give them prestige in the world, are far more important than the future of the Russian Federation. And if that's the case, if the people in charge believe that that's the case, that what's in their interest is the only thing that matters, you know what the outcome is going to be. The country can't survive it. The country can't survive having a predatory aristocracy that bleeds it dry. Now, on the subject of Yusakov and Dmitriev talking to each other, they say very clearly, how can we manipulate Witkoff to get him to bring our maximalist goals to the White House and present them as their own? If there is any doubt in anybody's mind that Donald Trump's 28-point peace scam was written by the Russians and that he and his team are Russian assets, you need to give it up now. You have your head buried in the sand. You are not paying attention. What is the Russian press saying about all of this? Again, thanks to Steve Rosenberg for these. Izvestia. The headline is Ukraine and EU are trying to derail Trump's plan. Kyiv strikes on Russia make it clear Kyiv doesn't want peace. So this is the headlines. These are two of the headlines in Izvestia today. On the subject of Ukraine and EU trying to derail the peace talks, the EU and Britain are warmongers, writes Izvestia. Trump and Putin are the peacemakers. This is very clearly the message that the Russian powers that be want to spew into the domestic audience. Let everybody know that the EU, Great Britain, and Ukraine are the terrorists that are keeping us at war, and that Trump is a good guy who's trying to stop it. At the G20 in South Africa, the EU tried to organize, this is in Rossomaya Gazetia, the Russian state newspaper. Quote, at the G20, the EU tried to organize to derail the peace process, while Rubio is trying to find compromises. It's very clear the Russian papers are trying to paint a picture of the EU as bad and Trump as good, to sow divisions in the transatlantic alliance, which they are doing a hell of a job of. If a British general said today on national radio, Times Radio, that the United States is not merely an unreliable ally, but rather a friend of our enemy, you know that they are fracturing the transatlantic alliance. We even had a member of the House of U.S. Representatives suggest that we withdraw from NATO, while a plan purportedly written by Trump's people, which we know it's not, but they're claiming it as their own, a plan written by Trump's people includes the demand that no other nation ever join NATO. These are moves that are absolutely against our national interest and being pushed by the felon in the White House as if they were his plans. Russia wants to sow division and break the transatlantic alliance while sidelining Europe. That's the other great benefit that they get out of this. It was like kicking a geopolitical anthill. The Europeans are running around like crazy, trying to adapt to this, taking this Russian piece of shit scam and its demands seriously, rather than flushing the whole thing down the toilet. It's a crime and a sin. Izvestia. Ukrainian strikes make it clear Ukraine doesn't want peace. Steve Rosenberg said, this is a quote from Steve Rosenberg, the parallel reality Russia has created since 2022 is highlighted in this statement. Ukraine is a terrorist country. Ukraine is the aggressor, while Russia is the liberator, and Russia is merely responding to Ukraine aggression. This is the parallel reality that the Russians are trying to create. Meanwhile, the Russian papers Moskovsky Komsomolets are saying that Witkoff has been stabbed in the back, that he's been set up to fail for presaging the failure of this plan, which Moscow never had any intention of accepting. Meanwhile, there was another piece on Army Secretary Driscoll, who was here in Kyiv to threaten Zelensky and Syrskyi with the cutoff of aid if they didn't sign the plan by Thursday, by tomorrow, which Moscow. I might as well say Moscow. Washington has backed off of that, right? The deadline of tomorrow is off the table. That's not an issue. Trump, in fact, has referred to this now as merely a map what did he say? He called it a map and a concept. He went from, this is the deal, you got to sign it or we're cutting off all aid. You don't have any cards. Do what I say. God damn you. He went from that to, it's not really a plan. It's a map. It's more of a concept of a plan. Because, of course, that's all that Trump ever has. No, Trump doesn't know what a concept is. While Russia is lying about wanting peace, Ukraine kinetic sanctions continue to pound Russia. We saw satellite imagery released today of the hit on the Taganrog airplane repair factory. We know that an A-60 was a Beriev A-60. That's a kind of a concept plane. The Russians built two of them. We think they're worth about $500 million a piece. And one of them is now a charred mess on the tarmac and a wisp of ozone. And they're designed to test laser weapons, directed energy weapons. The other one that was destroyed, you can see very clearly in the satellite imagery, it was destroyed, was an A100LL. Now, what this is the next generation of Russian AWAC. It's the testing plane for the next generation of Russian AWACS. Now, you guys might remember, we believe the last working Russian AWAC, the A-50, was destroyed in the hangar at the repair shop that was just hit 2 nights ago, where this A-60 was burned and this A-100 was burned. If that's true, because not a single A-50 has been in the air since the last 2 were shot down by the Ukrainians, blinding the airspace for those AWACS, Russia would be desperate to try to create a new AWAC. The A-100 is supposed to be it. They built 2 of these. One was just destroyed on the tarmac. The other is still out in its testing phase. So again, that's a $300 million aircraft. That's almost $1 billion worth of aircraft destroyed in one night. And that assumes that the repair shop itself wasn't hit and didn't burn, which it did, but we don't know what was inside. One Ukrainian mill blogger, and this is unconfirmed, one Ukrainian mill blogger is claiming that there were 6 Tu-95s inside. The Bears, the big bombers, right? One of the legs of Russia's nuclear triad, the aerospace component of the triad that can launch nuclear bombs. As many as 6, and now again, this is unconfirmed, but as many as 6 may have been inside. Given the NASA firm's data and looking at the fire, one would think that it was at least 1 plane in there burning. This was not a debris strike. This was Neptune missiles. This was the new, the adapted sea-to-air, now land, ship-to-ship missiles originally. They've been adapted for ground-to-ground campaigns. And this appears to be one of the most successful campaigns that the Neptune missile has been engaged in thus far. There are clearly holes in the workshop roof and signs of fire coming through those holes. Nearby, there's a furniture factory that we believe has been retooled to act as a drone workshop. And that was also hit. Not satellite imagery, but imagery from locals show the plant, the victim of a large fire. There's a large fire still burning there. We also got satellite imagery from Novorossiysk. Now, there's 4 loading terminals at Novorossiysk. Normally, they are all full. There's a tanker at each one. Every day they fill up a tanker. Every day it leaves, a new one comes back. 2.2 million barrels of oil a day go out through that port at Novorossiysk. Well, after the recent missile strikes there, the satellite imagery shows that, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, at the Taganrog facility, they took out the S-400 system as well. We don't know if it's the whole system, but clearly elements of it were hit. That's the second S-400 system in about a week. And they're $100 million a piece. The radars for those are $100 million a piece. We hope the radar was the target. Now, in Novorossiysk, the satellite imagery shows that the loading arms are displaced. And there is only one ship there being filled. So Novorossiysk may be running at only 25% capacity, or the demand for Russian oil has dropped so low that there are no ships willing to come into port, take the risk of being hit by Ukrainian drones and filling up with Russian oil they may not be able to sell. Because one of the things we got word about today was that under the threat of U.S. secondary sanctions, India's largest refinery is laying off of Russian oil completely. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. The Indians have been making a fortune buying cheap Russian oil and reselling it to the West as a refined gasoline product. Diesel, gasoline, kerosene, aviation fuel, etc. India's been making a fortune. It's been from what I understand, in the refinery business in India, the last year has been like the Wild West, making a fortune. And the West didn't mind, right, buying cheap gasoline from India, even though it was made with cheap Russian crude. I say cheap because the Indians are buying it at a discount. Europe has now said they will no longer continue to do that. And so the Indian refiners seem to be getting out of that business entirely. Similar situation at Tuapse, the marine terminal at Tuapse, where 5% of all Russian oil is exported from, crude oil is exported from. There appears to be damage to the loading arms. They appear to be able to load less oil. However, last night we saw an attack on the oil refinery there at Tuapse, and that is still burning today. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians reached way deep into Russian territory last night and had a successful strike against the Progress Enterprise factory in Shuvash, which is 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, 620 miles inside of Russia. What do they make there? They make the special antennas for the Geron drones that decrease their susceptibility to Ukrainian electronic warfare. So they make electronic warfare proof deterrent antennas. They also make relay components and receivers for Caliber cruise missiles and the Iskander M and K variants. So critical production facility for missiles and missile parts and drone parts. Meanwhile, the Moscow thermal power plant was hit, or one of the largest thermal power plants in and around Moscow. It wasn't offline very long. There was a brief power outage and loss of heat for tens of thousands of Muscovites. But what they did was they brought in 10 portable generator trucks. And that got the power and heat back on for most of Moscow. The fact is, though, the plant seems to be knackered. It's been hit hard, and it's likely going to take a long time to repair it. How long Moscow can run on those generator trucks is the question, as clearly they should be the next target. And maybe we'll see a little bit of that tonight. Moscow is losing allies. Syria, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Kazakhstan, India with the oil, right? While Ukrainian allies are standing up. Mark Rutte confirmed today that the EU is on track to purchase 5 billion euros in weapons for Ukraine from the Pearl Initiative. In fact, what Rutte said was that right now Ukraine is getting just about $1 billion worth of weapons every month through the Pearl Initiative, through the European allies to whom the Ukrainians are so grateful for in this time of need. Ursula von der Leyen is pushing the 140 billion euro loan using the Russian frozen assets as collateral. It appears that while the oil terminals are burning, the factories are burning, the power plants are burning, and the $300 billion abroad may well soon be used against the Russians in their own war. The Russian papers are blaming the Ukrainians, blaming the EU, calling them the warmongers, while the war comes home to Russia. And come home, it's about to. Russia is so desperate for manpower. As the territories inside of Russia run dry, right? We just saw Yakutia become the third province to stop military sign-on bonuses and payments, after we saw 8 other Russian provinces dramatically reduce those payments because they're broke. They're broke. Yakutia has a budget deficit for the year 10 times what was projected. 1,000% more. That's the budget deficit in Yakutia. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Directorate has released what they claim is an intercepted phone call between Russian commanders where troops in the Donetsk are refusing to fight. It is getting so desperate in Donetsk that the Russians are committing whole new war crimes because of it. It is being reported that Russia has force mobilized 40,000 Ukrainians from the temporarily occupied territories and sent them to fight in Pokrovsk. Just pouring. Now, this is clearly forbidden by all international laws and standards. You cannot occupy a country and then use the locals to fight their friends and relatives. That is a war crime. 40,000 have been dumped into Pokrovsk, which may explain, remember what I've been saying about Pokrovsk, how we don't really know what's going on, that it could very well be a retreat, a withdrawal under fire. And that's really what the Ukrainians are trying to do, is get their people out of there. I don't know that that's exclusively what they're doing, but they are definitely doing that. Today, we saw the second phase of the withdrawal under fire executed to pull the troops out of the southern and center of the city of Mirnograd. The Ukrainians are giving that land up very clearly. And now they have retrenched, but they've basically given up most of the city of Mirnograd. It could well be that the Ukrainians are going to withdraw from Pokrovsk. I think somebody asked about Pokrovsk before. The northern part of Pokrovsk is still in Ukrainian hands. Everything south of the railway mostly everything south of the rail line has fallen to the Russians. And the Russians are pouring. They've got 170,000 troops in that area. 1/3 of all combat missions up and down the line happen in Pokrovsk. Now, right there, the fact that 1/3 of all attacks are happening in one place, and there's a 1,000-kilometer front line, tells you that the Russians are running out of people. Hence the forced mobilization of Ukrainians. And then we have this report from Open Minds, which is an online open source reporting intelligence agency. They are claiming that the Kremlin's expenditure on recruiting foreign fighters has increased over the summer 500%. That in 2024, 7% of online ads for the Russian army were targeted at foreigners. In 2025, it's 30% of online advertising is recruiting foreign mercenaries into the Russian army. That's why we're seeing these entire brigades of African mercenaries captured or destroyed in the Donbass. The economy is not doing any better. Kremlin-linked economist published a poll in which he claims 66% of industry leaders are pessimistic about the future of industry in Russia, which of course is all against the backdrop of the debt crisis, the looming bond crisis, the lack of foreign goods, sanctions routines. The future is not looking good for the Russians. Not at all. Okay, is that everything? Wait, I think I have one or two other little things here. No, that's everything. Okay. So again, big thanks to Van, who is the sponsor of this live. Thank you, Van. Really great to have you on board, pal. I appreciate it. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Roy, Travis, Feisty, and Maddie, who worries about me, which is very nice. It's nice to have somebody worry about you. Yes, you did, Van. Van is a hero. He joined the Patreon at the Sea Babies level. I made a video, actually, at the Sea Babies level. You get a video shout out every month. And I made a video today, Van, for you. That one's for you, buddy. Normally in the month, if you join the Patreon at the Sea Babies level, you do not get a video on the 26th of the month. It waits until the next month. But for Van, I was there. Thanks, Bernard. I think they're a little better than that, but that's okay. You know what? For the rest of you guys, I'll do the same. If anybody joins the Patreon at the Sea Babies level or higher, I will do a video this month. But you have to do it before Friday or I won't have time. Happy birthday, Van, and happy birthday, Seawolf. Our birthday boys tonight. Anthony, one of the main dishes is going to be Hassenpfeffer. I've already got 5 rabbits carved up and sitting in the marinade. And they'll marinate until Friday. Then I'm going to cook them Friday and let them sit overnight. So we're doing some rabbit. We're getting a turkey too, but it's a pretty big group. The Russian Red Cross, like the Russian Orthodox Church, is simply an arm, a compromised organization, an arm of the Kremlin. No two ways about it. And candied yams and butternut squash soup. Should be a nice day. 2 National Guard soldiers are just shot in Washington. Yeah, Pingu, we were talking about that before. I'm being told that they both passed, that they're both dead. I mean, were they wearing flak jackets, bulletproof vests? What? How were they killed outright? They had no protective gear, Jan? Is that what you're telling me? I was going to say shot in the head. My money's on it being some crazy MAGA guy who's trying to start a civil war. That's my money. I know they're going to start out by saying, just like with Charlie Kirk, that it's some lefty, but that's not who's doing this. That's not who's doing this. CNN is reporting that they both passed. Lukey, I don't know what you're talking about there, pal. Yeah, Trump is completely right. Exactly, Guard. That's exactly the kind of thing it would be for. So that Trump could declare martial law. We're under attack. Prove him right. Kiwi Annie, the problem with dictators is that they're not interested in what the law says, the courts say, the parliament says. Remember what Palpatine did in Star Wars? The first thing he did? Disbanded the Senate. No Imperial Senate, nobody to trouble him. There was another one the other day. I only know about the one today. Past foreign advisor to Ukraine is running for Congress because she's fed up with Krasnov. Well, good. The bank here won't release it. The banking system here is terrible. I mean, it's awful. I've never seen a bank not want to take my money. And it looks like in your case, they won't give yours back. I don't know what to tell you, pal. I really don't. You could try Western Union. It's expensive, but it works. Actually, right now it's cheap. If you send it for a cash pickup, it's only 99 cents. And you can pick it up at any bank. Right, martial law, no voting, Bernard. And the midterms are coming and they're worried about them. The other one seems to be natural causes. Oh, so the National Guard are deployed to D.C. Some probably older gentleman or not so fit gentleman dies of natural causes. But then 2 days later, 2 of the guys get shot. Lukey, you're starting to sound like a Nigerian prince scam, so I muted you. Okay, cut it out. Handle your shit. And don't bring it in here. We're not interested. Hey, Sammy. Okay. Poland's getting submarines. I did not hear about the fire in Hong Kong, no. Thanks, Clinkers Kelly. Yeah, Seawolf, you're right. Let's remind Trump that he told Ukraine to vote during martial law. But that's the thing with these bastards. They don't have any consistency. They have no consistency whatsoever. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander for them. It's not a thing. Okay, questions on Ukraine, guys. Anything else going on in Ukraine tonight? So again, I want to thank Van, who's the sponsor of tonight's live. I want to thank all the Patreon folks. And if anybody joins at the Sea Babies level or higher, I will do a video for you before the end of the month. Oh, the neighbors are the worst. It was a bad night Monday. I'm still exhausted from it, to be honest. So big thanks to Van, who's the sponsor tonight. Big thanks to Lars, who's got the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. What is the feeling from Ukrainians about the peace deal? They are reeling from the betrayal. They're taking this one hard. I mean, this is the third time Trump has really tried to stab Ukraine in the back. Third big time. There were other little ones. And it really has people reeling. No, the Russians will never agree to it. I don't think they have, Pingu. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything. I don't know the details of the updated peace plan. I am, Mike. I'm exhausted. I still have not recovered from Monday night. That's the problem. And then yesterday was a busy day. So to be, UK is standing strong. Yes, you do, Anthony. I wish I could say the same for my country. So happy birthday, Van. Thanks for sponsoring. Thanks for chipping in there, pal. And thanks to everybody. Yeah, common sense sums it up pretty good there. Thanks, Anthony. Hey, Space Ghost. Night, Clive. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Turkey Day, everybody. Enjoy your meals tomorrow and make it a pleasant day. Take care.